Welcome everyone to the October AAC Promising Practices webinar, Leadership Academies from Ordinary to Extraordinary. My name is Rebecca Trout and I'm the Director of the All-America City Award Program here at the National Civic League. The National Civic League is a 125-year-old nonprofit that aims to advance civic engagement to create equitable and thriving communities. The All-America City Award is our flagship program, and it began in 1949 to recognize exceptional civic engagement in local government. This year, we will be recognizing 10 communities as All-America cities for their inclusive civic engagement work that has fostered health and well-being in communities. To win, each community must demonstrate innovation, impact, equity, and inclusiveness, civic engagement, and cross-sector collaboration by describing 3 successful efforts to address pressing local challenges around health and well-being. We are now accepting letters of intent for the 2020 awards, and those are due on November 1st. By submitting an LOI, you will receive a $100 discount on your application fee, so I strongly encourage you to get those in by the 1st. I will also be sending additional information about how to apply for the All-America City Awards in a post-webinar email, which will include an LOI template. While AAC celebrates great work through our awards program and competition, we also aim to share those innovative best practices, initiatives, and projects around the country through avenues such as this monthly webinar series. Today, we will be highlighting 2 innovative city leadership academies. First, we will be joined by Dr. Cindy Claycomb, a council member for the City of Wichita, Kansas, to discuss Wichita's newly revamped Civic Engagement Academy. Following, we will be joined by Olivia Montalvo-Patrick, Interim Neighborhood Services Coordinator, who will discuss the City of El Paso's Neighborhood Leadership Academy and Advanced Leadership Training. If you have any questions throughout either presentation, please submit them via the chat box and we'll have the presenters answer them at the very end of the webinar. Councilmember Claycomb, the floor is yours.
Thank you. So a few months ago, I needed to replace a couple of my district advisory board members, and 3 of the 6 applicants were Civic Engagement Academy graduates. We needed a new chair for our Animal Advisory Board, and the new chair is a Civic Engagement Academy graduate. And we're working on a vision for our new vision for our riverfront, and we needed a young professional to serve on the steering committee, and they selected someone who was a Civic Engagement Academy graduate. So good afternoon, good morning to some of you still, I think. I am Cindy Claycomb, City Council member representing the City of Wichita's District 6, which is the north central part of our city, and today I have the opportunity to showcase our Civic Engagement Academy, an innovative approach to engage residents in active civic engagement. So you might ask, what is Civic Engagement Academy? And it's a program that's designed to inspire and empower individuals to both actively interact with their municipal government and to regularly vote in local elections. So the content focuses on the benefits of being civically engaged, including registering to vote and regularly voting if eligible. It also includes a comprehensive overview of the City of Wichita departments and services, and then we put an emphasis on having participants learn how to engage with each city department for the purposes of seeking information, reporting problems, or submitting suggestions, and they also learn what opportunities exist within each department to serve on a related advisory board or commission. We developed the Civic Engagement Academy. It used to be, we had an academy called Citizens Academy, and that one focused on providing information about city departments and services, but it didn't provide content on the benefits of civic engagement or any sort of hands-on experience and how community members could be civically engaged, and it required just an enormous amount of time commitment from our city's department directors, which wasn't sustainable for us, so we had discontinued it. It wasn't designed to intentionally produce civically engaged community members. So just a little bit of contextual background on our Civic Engagement Academy. The City of Wichita's Evergreen Neighborhood Resource Center is a partner in a consortium that serves a largely Hispanic neighborhood. We call it the city's North End. And within close proximity of the Neighborhood Resource Center are the Evergreen Public Library, the Evergreen Recreation Center and Park, the Opportunity Project Preschool, Grace Med Health Clinic, which is a federally qualified health center, and then Cloud Elementary School. And the Neighborhood Center has really taken a lead role in coordinating an effort to achieve a community vision for this consortium and other partners that we have. And so our vision is that the Evergreen Complex is a thriving neighborhood hub teeming with activity, including services, resources, health, fitness, recreational opportunities, community gathering, culture events, educational programming, and it serves a large and growing Latino population with a long and rich cultural history based in what is historically known as Wichita's North End. So to achieve this mission, we're focusing our work in 4 areas: on civic engagement, workforce development, small business development, and cultural celebration. And the purpose of the first of these, that civic engagement, is to help our community members learn how and why to engage with their municipal government. So a centerpiece of this effort has been the development and implementation of our Civic Engagement Academy. And we did some research and found that in 2016, the Kansas Civic Health Index, we learned from that Kansas groups that are the least politically engaged also experience the poorest health outcomes. And so low level of political involvement for certain population groups suggest that important perspectives are underrepresented in the political process in Kansas. So if these populations were more engaged in the local government process, they'd be better positioned to utilize available resources that they have, and to advocate and advance policy change that could help them reverse negative health trends that are associated with their socioeconomic status. So the program is designed to teach these participants how to actively engage with local government. Our curriculum was developed, we developed our curriculum working with an outside content expert who had specific experience in Civic Engagement Academy or activity and instruction. So they were an expert from the Kansas Leadership Center. And this content expert had life experience as an elected official and working with elected officials, had an in-depth understanding of municipal government, valued the process of civic engagement as a primary method for improving community, and had experience with adult learning curriculum development and delivery. And so we, the City of Wichita, we applied for and received a grant from the Kansas Health Foundation to provide the funding for the curriculum development. So to qualify for the grant, we had to demonstrate how our mission aligned with the mission of the Kansas Health Foundation. And their mission is to improve the health of all Kansans. And so they really work to reduce health disparities related to social and economic factors and to civically engage more Kansans to improve the health of our state. So the intersection of the mission between the City of Wichita and the foundation occurs where the city works to provide conditions for living well, including inviting civic engagement through various means, and the foundation focuses on social and economic factors related to health disparities and increasing civic engagement. So by directing our efforts in these areas, the city is working to mitigate socioeconomic factors that lead to health disparities while simultaneously striving to increase civic engagement as a means to ultimately improve health outcomes. And so those are both of which are strategies that the Kansas Health Foundation employs to advance its mission and improve the health of all Kansans. So you might want to know who participates in our Civic Engagement Academy. It's made available for the North End community members, but we open it up to residents across the entire city. Our particular focus is on recruiting individuals who are not presently civically engaged, so especially racial and ethnic minorities, low-income populations, young adults, other underrepresented populations. And so we, our recruitment efforts concentrating on finding those people who have not previously been at the table of civic engagement. So just to give you a few statistics, socioeconomic, 64% of our participants so far earn less than $75,000, 64% are female, 60% are in we have 6 districts in the city. 60% of our participants have come from our older neighborhoods, the older, less affluent neighborhoods, and we have 29% minority representation, 13% Latino, 11% Black. We, of course, would like to increase that, but are pretty happy with being able to, again, engage those people that haven't previously been at the table. We deliver this program. It's very hands-on. For residents that desire to explore civic engagement behaviors and action steps for themselves and their families and their neighbors for the purpose of improving overall quality of life conditions. And so they become really acquainted with city operations and an understanding of how all the city departments work. And then we give them opportunities to experiment with civic engagement ideas built on their classroom instruction, and we send them off with try-it assignments each week, which I'll talk a little bit more about. We use a variety of facilitation and presentation styles along with tours and things like that. We have 4 overall program objectives. The first is to invite, inspire, and empower individuals to civically engage with their municipal government, to teach individuals how and why to become civically engaged, to provide hands-on experience with specific civic engagement activities, and then to inspire regular voting habits. We have 8 sessions for each class, and they are 3 hours in length. We hold them 1 evening per week. We get about 25 to 30 participants. We find that's a pretty good number to be able to have them do the hands-on work that we want them to do. And then we've used some classroom instruction, but a lot of tours, a lot of simulations, case discussions, experimentation, small group activities, and then we do the supplemental coursework where they participate in an incentive program that encourages civic engagement experimentation that are linked to rewards at the end of the program. I thought I would just take you just very quickly through our 8 sessions to give you a kind of a program at a glance, you know, what we do. So session number 1, we set program expectations and structure, and then we talk about our city council and give an overview of that, give an overview of our city budget. We find that really helpful to kind of set the stage for people understanding what money comes into the city and how money is spent. And then we do a city-county exercise because a lot of people don't understand what the city does versus what the county does. And so we find that, again, a very useful exercise to do early in the process. And then we give them a set of try-it exercises that they can experiment with over the week. We ask them to choose from these. They can write a Where I'm From story, which is one of the exercises that they've taken part in that evening. We say go out and explore the city's website, sign up for a district newsletter, or just simply call or email your city council representative and thank them for the opportunity to engage in the Civic Engagement Academy. Session number 2, we ask them to do we do a city website tour in class, and then we have an economic development overview. Again, one of those things that we found over time, if we give people an overview of economic development, it answers a lot of their questions and gives them a better foundation as they move on through the class. We also do a TED Talk that's a case for civic engagement and have a debrief on that. And then we spend some time talking to them about the difference between observations, you know, what the facts that are stated in any problem versus their own personal interpretations, so that, again, as they move through the class, they can differentiate between observation and interpretation. And then we ask them that week to go out and try a few things, apply for a library card, for a public library card, explore a library or a park that they haven't been to, go out and look at the park and rec and library websites, and sign their child up for Barry's Crew, which is our park and rec kids organization. The third evening, they take a tour of our new advanced learning library, and they get an overview of housing and community services, and they get a transit overview. And then we use probably an issue that many of you face in your cities and towns is homelessness, and we use that as one of our activities to have them explore that that issue. Send them home with experimentation, ask them to ride a public transit bus, including our Q line, which you are seeing here on the screen now, and that is our free connector that runs through the middle of our city, through our downtown, into some outlying areas. So they can ride that. They can identify a housing and community service partner that they'd like to learn more about and take a tour. So things like Rainbows United, YMCA, United Methodist, Open Door, Salvation Army. So we just ask them to contact them. Session number 4 is a city council panel. So we ask city council members to come in and sit down with the Civic Engagement Academy. We also do a public works overview that night, and then another TED Talk, which has to do with hacking civic engagement, to learn about that. Then we take them through our new knowledge base and city complaint reporting system. It's called Access Wichita, and teach them about how you can look up information and how you can report any issue that you have in your neighborhood. And then we do a capital improvement plan decision-making exercise. Again, one of those things that people don't really know much about the capital improvement program, and so it's a way to get them to fairly quickly understand how that works. For experimentation that week, we say go out and use Access Wichita to report something, and it is surprising how empowering that exercise is for our participants. They come back the next week and are just thrilled that something got done. They reported something and it was fixed. And so we give them the option of reading a city-related article in the local newspaper or watching a portion of the city council meeting online. In session 5, we do planning and zoning departments overview, and then we do a planning activity, again, to get them some simulation of planning. And then we give them 3 pages of ideas of ways to be civically engaged, and we discuss those because sometimes people don't think about how that they might be able to do that. And so we send them home that evening and we say, for experimentation, attend a district advisory board meeting or watch one on Facebook Live. We started broadcasting them and saving them that way. Educate another person about Access Wichita, how to use our Access Wichita website, or select anything from the 3 pages of ways to be civically engaged. Our 6th session, we take them out to our new law enforcement training center for a tour, and that's a picture that you're seeing. That's a picture of our law enforcement training center. That night they get police and fire departments overview, which is a really good overview for them. And then we do an activity called Communities of Color and Law Enforcement, and again, a really good exercise to get them thinking about those things that affect our communities of color and our law enforcement and the relationship between the two. For experimentation that week, we say go off and find out who your community policing officer is and send him or her an email asking what you can do to deter crime in your neighborhood, or sign up for Police and Fire Citizens Academy, or contact your local fire station and thank them for their service, or go out and explore the Nextdoor app and see if your neighborhood is participating. In the 7th session, we tour city council chambers and council offices. We do an overview of the 2020 census and the importance of that. We've added that session actually because of the importance of the census this year. And then we have civic engagement alumni come in and sit on a panel and interact with the current participants. And then for the last week of experimentation, we say complete any triad exercises that you might have missed and turn those in. And we have them turn in their triad exercises. And then session 8 is our graduation. That night we make it a very special evening. Each of the participants gives their story of impact, what the Civic Engagement Academy has meant to them. It's a pretty kind of emotional night for them because they've spent a lot of time together. And then we facilitate a discussion called When I Think About the Future of Wichita, and we have them think about that. And then we have a really nice graduation celebration. So you might ask, what have we learned from this program? And one of the first key lessons is the importance of those try it exercises each week. And that's part of the reason I went through them, so that you could understand they're not difficult things we ask them to do, but we base those exercises on a behavioral change model, because research has shown that information and education alone don't change people's behavior. So people have to actually try a new behavior several times. That's just key to eventual adoption. And that's the reason that our program is different and why the Kansas Health Foundation actually funded it, because they have an emphasis on behavior change, not just increased knowledge. The second thing, key learning that we've taken away from this is the importance of the cohort. We're in our 4th session, and those cohorts become support systems for each other, and the engagement among the group during the class and after the class, but during the class, is just invaluable. They become a really pretty tight-knit group of folks. And then the third lesson that we learned is in alumni engagement. We get increased interest in boards and commissions by these alumni graduates. I started my talk by saying that 3 of the 6 applicants that I had for District Advisory Board were alumni, and we have the new chair of the Animal Advisory Board is an alumni. And then we get increased interest in them becoming just engaged in their community. And I talked about Darrell Kelly and the Riverfront Legacy Steering Committee. These folks just show up now, and that's not, that wasn't the case before they went through Civic Engagement Academy. So I'm going to show you just the picture I was just showing you, was a few Civic Engagement Academy alumni who actually organized a neighborhood cleanup. So that was pretty cool. But I want to just show you a quick little video from our alumni.
I want to be involved. I want to make my community better. Maybe be able to make my community better, I have to know how our city government operates and what resources are available.
Sorry, Councilmember Claycomb, it looks like we're having some technical difficulties with the video. Okay. I appreciate you showing that, but if you could just email that to me, and I'll make sure we get that out to participants. We're getting the sound, but not the visual, and apologize that our tech is not working on that.
Sure, we'll do that. Just to give you a little information, so it's a Civic Engagement alumni video. So it's some of our alums talking about, giving testimonials about the program. So hopefully you'll get the opportunity to watch that. So just in closing, just want to talk about what is the future of our Civic Engagement Academy, because we were grant funded for 4 programs, which, as I said earlier, we're in our 4th session. We have decided that we see the value in continuing this, and we got, it was interesting to me, pretty highly lobbied by the alumni who said, you have to continue this. So we figured out how to allocate funding to continue this program, and we are also training several of our community service representatives who are our neighborhood liaisons to be facilitators for this. The Kansas Leadership Center has designated the Civic Engagement Academy as one of their community leadership programs, which gives our alumni some perks with the Leadership Center. All of our graduates receive a Kansas Leadership Scholarship, which if you go out and look at the cost of that, it is a little pricey, and so that's a good thing for our graduates. And then we're working with the Kansas Leadership Center on some initiatives to even better keep our alumni engaged. So I'll end here, and we'll take questions at the end.
Excellent. Thank you so much. Appreciate that presentation. And we do already have a couple of questions in the chat box. But as I mentioned at the top of the webinar, we're going to save those for the very end. So stay tuned, and we'll make sure those get answered. And now I am happy to introduce Olivia Montalvo-Patrick. She is the Interim Neighborhood Services Coordinator with the City of El Paso. Olivia?
Hello, welcome. Thank you everyone for joining us. My name is Olivia Montalvo-Patrick. I'm with the City of El Paso. And I think my slides is displaying, or?
Not just yet.
Okay.
Would you like me to share those for you?
Yes, there they are.
There we go.
Are we viewing?
Yes, we are. Perfect.
Oh, perfect, perfect. All right. Well, I'd always like to start off with the presentation of, since I am a geography major, just showing folks off where we are on the map. This is the City of El Paso. It's always kind of fun to tell folks that if you drive 12 hours to the west, you're in Southern California. If you drive 12 hours to the east, you're still in Texas. So it's always got to get a nice perspective of showing folks of our geographic kind of area and then our neighboring cities. Because if we are the largest binational metroplex in the area, which is made up of Las Cruces, New Mexico, Ciudad Juarez, and El Paso. And so we are the 6th largest city in Texas and the 19th largest in the U.S. This is our city leadership. I like to show this one because it shows that the City of El Paso is represented by 8 elected officials, and our Mayor DeMargo has been in office since 2007. This is our city leadership team. Tommy Gonzalez was appointed our city manager in June of 2014. I know my presentation is going to focus at the neighborhood level of a leadership academy, but I just wanted to take a brief moment and talk about what our city leadership level has been doing. In 2019, the City of El Paso was recognized. It was is the Texas Award for Performance of Excellence from the Texas Quality Foundation. And the Texas Quality Foundation helps businesses, hospitals, schools, government agencies, and nonprofits for performance improvements. In addition, in 2019, the Baldrige Foundation recognized the Leadership and Excellence Award for our government sector by the Malcolm Baldrige. And this is something that the city's been looking at, the Malcolm Baldrige framework, and using it as a leading by example to bring other community partners to the table, such as school districts and the medical centers, because a lot of it all needs to work together. If we're going to achieve the vision, we need all of our partners to come together. And part of that goes where our city leadership oversees over 6,000 employees for the City of El Paso. It's over 1,000 job titles, over 143 work locations, 20 city departments, and these are basically our foot on the ground folks that are, delivering the exceptional services to high quality of life. So these are our workers and our staff that are out there providing the services to our community. And a big part of the community is our largest partnership, but you learn that sometimes the hardest part of learning to engage with the community is making them feel that they're part of the team, not just the serving at the end of getting the services. And so it's always fun to start off and to know your origin story of where did our Neighborhood Leadership Academy start? So over a decade ago, our city leaders came together. Then they were working on a citizen involvement policy. That's kind of the little images on the side where the monitors were all square. And we're showing our examples of when we were kicking off the foundation of establishing citizens engagement through creating the Neighborhood Leadership Academy. It also created our Neighborhood Services section, which was fully funded in 2007. And that's actually when I came on board with the city in 2007 after I finished my master's degree. And so part of our focus of our neighborhood services, we focus on our neighborhood associations. Intent with that when they first started off as neighborhood associations that registered with the city, got city planning notices. So if there was new zoning or land use developments, the neighborhood associations got notifications so they can be aware of development happening. We also host an annual neighborhood summit where we would bring together all the citywide neighborhood associations to celebrate their civic engagement and promote their activities. And we also have a small funding program called the Neighborhood Improvement Program, which is small-scale funding that neighborhood associations are able to qualify for physical improvements to their neighborhood parks or aesthetic improvements like murals and entryway. And then our core program that we run is our Neighborhood Leadership Academy. So this is our roots of kind of starting that. So tips and pointers for folks trying to get stuff started. It's always good to have your strategic, your one-page proposal plan that kind of lists out your objectives, your goals, your action steps. And it's always fun to see where it starts developing and where it's going, because a lot of it comes down to when your strategic goals may change over time. Where we are currently is to promote transparent and consistent communication among all members of the community, because what it comes down to for public awareness, taxpayers want to know where their dollar's going. And so a lot of the education starts off initially showing folks out of your $1 that's spent, 27% comes to the city, and then the majority that will go to the school districts, to the county, and other entities as a Paso Community College. And so this is an educational opportunity where you start teaching folks, like all these folks of the 6,000 employees come together, and everyone knows an org chart, and I like to use the org chart for our initial class when we do a leadership academy, because it lets folks see this is everyone that's running everything, but where it becomes tangible in the experience of participating in the Neighborhood Leadership Academy is when you're taking the participants on the ground and experiencing the programs. So our Neighborhood Leadership Academy, it's grown. It was initially 16 weeks with just one field trip to the main library. We've now grown to a 20-week program with over a dozen on-site presentations. And that was part of the feedback that we received from participants, because they've learned more when you actually got to engage and go on-site to the places and actually hear from the key experts in their fields. And then you can hear from the knowledge base and the passion that each city employee has for the sections that they serve in the community. So one of our examples here is our Sun Metro, our Mass Transit Department. They've used this Leadership Academy throughout the decade. It's been fascinating to watch them grow from starting off in their early presentations, admitting that, our routes weren't working, our buses were breaking down, what we're trying for new funding, we're bringing in new grants. They even brought, in the class field trip, they brought the Big Blue from Santa Monica and let NLA participants see, like, this is what the future could be. Like, this is what we're trying to be. And then watching the transition to, we got it, we have the Brio lines coming, we have the big accordion buses, the new mass transit center opened a few years ago. We just launched a year ago our trolley route in the downtown, so we brought back the original trolleys system that are running in our area, so folks got to see hands-on and experience that. And other opportunities, there's a lot of amenities and resources in the city that, if you don't, you wouldn't normally go to them if it wasn't brought to your awareness. So a lot of them, it's fun to go to, visiting the, youth and teen section and then our libraries. Another one, it's always fun to learn about is at our airport, because most people's experience is if you get there, you get your flight, you go home, you had a great experience, but not knowing that they're fully enterprise. And so there's a lot of the real estate and the property stuff that the airport does. And so it's very educational to find out, like, how all the different departments are operating their funding sources. And another one, the hands-on, we have our, this is one of our class field trips. I take them to the zoo, so it's a very educational, ongoing opportunity. And so kind of our end results that we've done since we started this program in 2006, we've had 510 participants complete the program. We average about 65 plus enrolling for each class, and many of our participants, have continued on to serve onto city boards. 2 of our graduates were elected to city council. 1 termed out, and we have another one currently on the city council board right now. A lot of them refer their constituents in their areas to join the Leadership Academy, because it helps them understand and have a learning of how city government works. And then that way, if they're interested in serving on boards, they already have a knowledge base. And our Leadership Academy is completely free. And it's, basically it's for the participants dedicating their time. And kind of similar to what Wichita talked about in one of their programs, we had like a spinoff where a lot of our focus has grown to teaching about like Government 101. And then from our initial mission that we had from our 2006 roots, we had a component that we saw that we were drifting away from about leadership development. And so we didn't feel like we wanted to, since our class already grew to 20 weeks, we're thinking if you keep adding more to that, it's a lot of time constraints. So we started a pilot program called Advanced Leadership Training. And this is where we partnered with a Dale Carnegie training instructor that's locally within our area between here and southern and northern New Mexico. And so these are classes that we've put together that teaches, one of them was keep stress in perspective, gain the willing cooperations of others, how to run effective meetings. And so these are tips and training stuff that we use for our grassroots leaders that they can take back. And part of the feedback that we got from our participants is that we have a targeted audience of our neighborhood associations and our Neighborhood Leadership Academy alumni. And we also have potential partnerships everywhere. We had a meeting just last week that one of our neighborhood associations works in IT, knows how to do website design, and has been trying to encourage neighborhood associations to create their own neighborhood web page. So we asked them, would you be willing to teach a class if we found you a facility? And so October 29th, we have a class signed up at our main library with a classroom facility with computers, and think we already got about half a dozen folks signed up already for our neighborhood associations to actually learn to design and make their own neighborhood association website. So this gives us opportunity to explore it, expand, and I also like using the advanced leadership training as a training tool for new employees. So it's also a good chance for them to, if you have new staff that hasn't had a chance to make trainings or classes, this is a good starting tool where you already have an audience that's eager and wanting to learn as well. We're talking about typical barriers and insights. So some of the initial buy-in actually just comes from, staff itself. And so we want to make sure that when you're starting off one of these programs, you have the buy-in from, all levels of staff and leadership are aware of this program. When I initially kicked off running this program, I was a participant in the program my first year. Then the following year, well, you're in it, now you can run it. So you're starting to learn. Not everyone responds back. So you're wanting to bring everyone up that they're on the same page, that these are the goals and the objectives of the program and what you're wanting to do. And it's also okay to start small. We initially started off with just 16 weeks with one field trip, and now we've grown to over 20 weeks with pretty much we're at a different location at every class. And a lot of that has grown to get the buy-in from different departments is taking and sharing feedback. So it's actually very important to get your pre-feedback from the class about what was their knowledge and their interactions with the city before. What do they feel at the end of the program is their knowledge, and what did they feel that they've grown from it, and then feedback at the end of each presentation to share with the department, because a lot of the times folks have either had limited or no experience with the department, and once they got to see the department, see the staff, like the bottom picture below, that's our streets and maintenance. We're at the fleet facility, and we actually had all the trucks out where you had the graffiti team, the pothole makers, the street stripers, the gentlemen that make all our city street signs, and so the folks get to see and hear the staff that, that are working behind the scenes, and so the participants get to, see people proud in their craftsmanship too. So it's good to share their feedback, with employees too, because most of the times you get calls and they're mostly complaints. So every once in a while when you get the positive feedback, that's always great to share that as well. And also staying in contact with past participants because they become your referral system. And we highly encourage group enrollment. Since for us, this has grown to be a longer program, if people come in the buddy system, the likelihood of them completing the program helps because then they have someone to talk to and carpool and get to the different facilities. Other typical barriers, so for folks that are going to be, tasked or in charge of establishing or running a similar leadership program, a lot of the stuff to know is like know your environment and facilities. And what I also mean by environment is like your physical environment. Like we know we don't want to run classes in the middle of July when it's 110 degrees. Or if you're doing stuff when the time changes, or hosting class the day you guys or with me host city council. So being aware of the different factors. If you want people and staff to be there, being respectful to the different needs of the participants and knowing your facilities as well. And also, knowing your facilities and letting staff know if you have folks with disabilities that need to be able to get around at the various sites too. So communication on both ends of when you're going to be at a different facility, mobility, access, that also, very helpful communication. And also just establishing your ground rules and class etiquette at the beginning of the program so that participants and staff know like this is an educational forum. And then you always have to do little reminders because you also allow time for socializing. Class is always shy in the beginning and then they start getting to know each other. One of the things that we do at the beginning of each leadership class is I ask for personal bios to be shared by a couple of participants. They get up and 100 words or less to share something about them, where they're from, what they do, and something of interest of them. And they become networks amongst each other. Another point we started just doing a couple years ago is little promotional items. We started using this little lanyards and name tags and handing out stuff, and that actually was very helpful for us to, find participants, especially when we are very mobile in our structure, and then help folks to find each other, and we all kind of group together, and it helps for security when you're going to various facilities as well. Another step is you never stop trying to improve and adapt the program. A lot of our improvements that we've done comes from the feedback from participants. And so one of the ones we've had feedback from is that our University of Texas of El Paso, they're interested, they want to have some of their UTEP students partake in this program, but 20 weeks is kind of a hard commitment for some of the students. So one of the recommendations from a participant was like, why don't you hold little slots and make it a criteria for them to attend maybe just a quantity of classes, and they get class credit for it. So that's something we're going to be exploring. And another component that we've had of how do we reach out to the youth. There was a youth version of like the Leadership Academy, but part of the challenge is there is getting parents to commit to take their children, to a downtown location. So what we're looking at for this past year, we actually had a couple of participants that signed up with their high school senior. And I was like, well, we can open up enrollment for youth if they're enrolled with an adult also in the class, because that covers transportation and they're engaging in something together. So those are just various little tips and insights if you're looking into start classes. I know I had a video too. I know for my end the video played, but I don't think I had audio, so I'll push really quick. And if not, I know Rebecca will share the link with everybody if it's not having any sound at this time.
Yep, we're having the opposite problem with yours. Okay. So no
we
audio,
have visual.
but able to see the visual.
Alrighty, we'll just move on to
yes, we'll make sure that video gets sent out as well to the presenters, to the attendees, and that will be both embedded in the slides, and then I'll send it as a separate link to everybody as well.
Awesome. No, this is just my kind of closing slide. We've actually, my contact information is there if there are city departments or other entities that are interested in starting up. We've been very helpful in helping other entities that reach out to us. We helped the City of Las Cruces kick off their own Neighborhood Leadership Academy. We've partnered and taken calls from Phoenix and other areas, and our partners in San Antonio or in Texas as well too. So I always leave my contact information out there because this is always a very fun program, and if you're looking for ways to kickstart it, how to start one, you can always, it's a very easy program to tailor to the needs of your city. And so, no, they're very, very worthwhile programs and endeavors. And with that, Rebecca, that kind of concludes my section. So.
Great, Olivia, thank you so much for your presentation. We're now going to move on to the question and answer portion of the event. I'm going to go ahead and start with a couple of questions. And I think for most of these, they can be answered by both of our presenters. So if I can have Wichita respond first, and then we'll go to El Paso. So the first question is, do you have to attend every class to graduate?
So this is Cindy Clycomb in Wichita. We have excused absences, so if they miss one or maybe two for work or those kinds of things, we'll let them continue, but we really like them to take all 8 sessions. We have had people, though, that have taken, missed 1 or 2, and then they come back in a later session and pick those 1 or 2 up. So we're somewhat flexible.
Great.
Well, then the same for the
how does that work for?
Yeah, we do track attendance for the program. Since ours is like a 20-week, we say if you miss more than 4 classes, you wouldn't get the certificate of completion at the end. But we also keep it very open where, let us know if you're having trouble that day or vacation time. So part of the scheduling that we do our programming, that we do it on Wednesday evenings for us from 6 to 8. And then we run from like January to about May or June because we want to wrap up before the holiday, like the summer break. And so, but yeah, as long as folks let us know, we are very flexible because part of it's their giving of their time to be there. So.
Absolutely. And another question for both of you, do you follow up and stay in touch with graduates of your programs? And if so, what does that look like and how do you keep those people engaged?
So here in Wichita, as I mentioned, we have the Alumni Association, and we have a relationship with them. They also have they have a Facebook page where they keep each other involved, and we monitor that. And I meet with their board on a kind of regular basis to talk about things. So we're looking at some ways to better stay engaged with them, because we think that's really important. Olivia talked about that's like your best recruiting tool, and so we recognize that. So the Kansas Leadership Center is going to help us a little bit with how to even better engage our alumni.
And the same book for us too. We do keep in touch. They are our referral source. Every time we open up enrollment, we try to use them as a tool when we're looking for folks that would be interested in starting neighborhood associations. Many of them, if they don't get on a city board, they become active in a neighborhood association, and then they start partnering. What we have is the El Paso Neighborhood Coalition, which is a city-wide representation of all the neighborhood associations. So many of our graduates of the Leadership Academy were, fledgling neighborhood associations, took the leadership class. Now they became active on the Neighborhood Coalition Council, and then they find one act of service leads to another, where some of them are now serving on the 2020 Census Community Outreach. And so we keep constant partnerships with various ones depending on how they're involved in the program. And then we also just send them as email distribution list of if there's surveys or they're trying to get public feedback, or the cities chime in of what are your city's priorities. We have an email distribution list that we'll send out to participants and let them know of the programs. And when we do our advanced leadership trainings, this is also our targeted audience, our graduates of the Leadership Academy. So when we open up those programs, they're the ones that get the direct invites as well.
Great. Wonderful to hear that both programs are staying in touch and finding ways to keep those people connected in the community. This next question, I believe, Olivia, you have already answered it, but for Wichita, what time do your classes start and end? And for those of you who didn't hear, I believe the El Paso classes are on Wednesdays from 6 to 8.
And here in Wichita, ours are on Wednesday night also, and we start them at 5:45 and run them till 8:30. We ask folks to start showing up at 5:30, grab snacks and things like that, but then we start at 5:45.
Great. Wednesday sounds like a popular day. All right. And El Paso, this question is for you. Do you have any plans to offer this program in Spanish?
What we currently have available is for Spanish translation. So if a participant wants to sign up, and we would pipe for services to have a Spanish translator with the headset to come in. So right now we don't have anything further than that except for the Spanish interpretation.
Great to have that option. And I believe this could be for both of you. How much do you budget to produce the program?
So our grant from the Health Foundation was $20,000 for the 4 sessions, and that was for to get the curriculum written, because we paid for that, and then for some other setup things, and then ongoing. Each session costs us about $3,500 a session to do everything we need to do.
And then for the City of El Paso, we actually started off very low budget. We basically just budget for snacks for the class, which is about $50 or less per class. We started enhancing with the promotional items for about five to less than $800 just for some of the promotional items. And probably our big expense for the Leadership Academy is the graduation we host at the end, because we found that to be of value to recognize participants. And so we'll host it at a city facility. This year we did it at the new Zoo's Pavilion and used the Zoo's catering. So that was our budget expense there, just about $1,500. And so we keep ours on the lower end because a lot of it we go to the sites and they provide it. So
great. It sounds like there are options to do this on a smaller scale and a larger scale, so that's good for communities to know. And Cindy, this question is for you. I'm sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, I just wanted to say probably our biggest expense are the notebooks that we put together. And I don't know if they do that in El Paso, but we give them a notebook with all the slides and materials, and that's probably our biggest expense each session.
Oh, no, we used to print, and so that we used to provide copied handouts, but then we noticed a lot of more folks were bringing the phones and their tablets, and so we turn all the PowerPoints into PDFs and send that to participants, so that actually saved us on our budgeting on printing, because then we just encourage folks to, like, feel free to bring your tablet or your laptop and follow along on the presentations on the class there.
Great. And speaking of those resources, Cindy, we had a participant that was interested in the document. I believe it was a 3-page document you mentioned about the different ways to become civically engaged. Would you be able to maybe send that to me and then I could send it out to the participants?
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, I'll send that to you, Rebecca, and you can share that with everyone.
Excellent. Thank you. And then this next question is actually from here internally at the National Civic League. With our award being focused on health and well-being, we're sort of curious, Cindy, about the connection that you guys are seeing between civic engagement and health outcomes. And just curious, in your view, why do you think that it is that people who are seemingly less connected civically are experiencing those poorer health outcomes?
You know, I haven't done a lot of research into that. I'm sure there is actual research that looks at that, but I think it's that when people when they don't know how to be civically engaged, they don't know how to take advantage of resources that might help them or how to advocate for themselves. And that leads to just kind of a spiral of less engagement, and then they don't get the resources they need, and that results in poor health outcomes. So what we're trying to do, our goal is to link them to the resources that they need and the voice that they need to be able to advocate for themselves.
Absolutely. Great. And Olivia, this question is for you. There was some curiosity about how the connection with the Dale Carnegie Institute came about and how you might suggest others either take advantage of that opportunity or maybe of another opportunity locally.
Okay, now, well, that one came about since we saw that how our initial Leadership Academy was focusing more heavily on the overview of city departments. We saw us branching away from the kind of the leadership development. And so we did actually a couple of pilot versions. One, we did a full day Saturday training that was staff doing the facilitation and the training. And that one's like, you know, on a staff level, if you were, you know, experienced in that stuff, it does make it easier compared to having to learn it and then go present too. And so one of our colleagues at the time happened to listen, like, hey, did you look into the Dale Carnegie? We're like, we have one here. And so that just kind of, we reached out to them, and it just built this great partnership with them. And they've been working with us since, because they know they target and work with businesses. And then they found this is very refreshing to come and like working with like grassroots neighborhood leaders. So they're able to tweak their programs and their structures and tailor it to our neighborhood folks. And so that's been a nice partnership there. And then we're like a referral system for them as well, because we'll be asked for speakers and engagements like, oh, well, we can refer you to this person. So it's helped build a relationship there. And so that was very helpful and, you know, very easy to reach out to, and we're very fortunate to have that in our area. And so we looked at, if there's not one in your area, there's different entities as well. I was even, you know, when we're first branching out for the pilot stuff, I was reaching out to Toastmasters. I was, you know, what other entities out there that are specialized in like in their particular area where you can bring in, you know, various partners to create different ones as well too. So, because if you have a university, community college nearby, there's different aspects of resources everywhere that you can, you know, tap into. And, you know, some of them are paid, and the one that we're going to be doing on October 29th, that's going to be a free one as well, because we're using internal, you know, staff and their talents, you know, just in a free facility to use the room. So.
Great, wonderful. Thank you for that information on that strategic partnership, and also just the reminder that there are a lot of community resources out there in the forms of universities and community colleges, and encouraging people to get creative with the partners that you seek, even if you don't have a huge budget to do something like this. Now I will go ahead and give out our last question, and I think we can, again, have both of you guys answer this. The last question we're going to have time for today is who facilitates your academy, and are those individuals compensated?
In Wichita, we have community service representatives. They are our neighborhood representatives, so each of the districts has one of these people. And so my assistant, my community service rep, generally facilitates the meeting. The sessions. We had some turnover in staff, and so now the supervisor of that group this session, she's facilitating it. But we're training as many of our community service representatives as want to. We're training them in the facilitation methods so that they could all be available to do the facilitation, or they might, sometimes they've talked about just even jointly facilitating that. They are not compensated beyond their regular salary. It's just part of what they do. We found, again, because of our old Citizens Academy was done by every week. We had a different staff, or a department come in, and it just got to be it just wasn't sustainable. That method wasn't sustainable, but we found this with our CSRs to be pretty sustainable.
Great.
And then for the City of El Paso, since Neighborhood Services was created in the same year that Leadership Academy was implemented, so it is housed and staffed by city employees. We do recommend at least 2 city employees partake in the setup and running of the class. A lot of the partnerships, when you're setting up the class, since it's done with other city departments, it's just collaborating with the other departments of them hosting, getting the presentation, making the arrangements with their staff in the facilities for the tours. So that's part of the key part of knowing that all levels of leadership and staff are on the same page. And also it kind of helpful when we started sharing feedback, because what we've learned for our experiences of having the various city departments do the presentations, they get competitive with each other. And so a lot of them go out there saying, like, we're going to be the best one and we're going to outshow the other. And so that's kind of how our field trips kind of branched off and have expanded on. And then by sharing the feedback with from the participants to the departments as well. So a lot of our buy-in came from the departments themselves, using this as an opportunity for show and tell, because a lot of the departments normally don't have community face time with the public because they're more of the service provider. And so, but a lot of it, it's just, for us, it was all internal and staff and setting up the logistics that way, all pretty much via email and phone.
Great. Thank you both for the information. I love that you guys are both doing fairly similar work with similar results, but seem to have different ways to do it. And I think that shows people that you can really tailor it to your own city's needs and resources. So appreciate you both sharing all of this information. I actually failed to mention at the beginning that both the City of Wichita and the City of El Paso are recent All-America City Award winners. So the fact that they are doing this innovative civic engagement work really comes as no surprise to us, because they have been designated, and just want to congratulate them again for their success as All-America cities. And for us, that is all we have today. I again want to thank everybody for joining today's webinar. And of course, a special thank you goes out to Councilmember Claycomb and Olivia for taking the time out of their busy schedules to be with us here today. I will be sending out a follow-up email, and that will include a recording and slides from today's webinars, as well as a couple of the additional resources that we talked about. And we also include a link to a very brief survey. If you wouldn't mind just taking about 2 minutes to fill that out, that gives us some feedback on today's webinars and gives you an option to give us suggestions for future webinars, so we know what you would like to hear about next. So thank you again, everyone, and we hope to have you on our next webinar. Have a great day.